Stargate has been a universe that's known to blend a few ancient myths with military intrigue and even some hardcore alien tech. So whether you discovered it through the 1994 film or dived deep into the lore with Atlantis or universe, you know that there's always more beneath the surface. Needless to say, Stargate's behind-the-scenes stories are as fascinating as the show itself, and a lot of fans are hardcore trivia buffs. If you thought you knew everything about the franchise, think again. In today's video, we'll be telling you 10 insane facts you probably didn't know about the franchise. So let's jump through the gates right away. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Stargate was originally meant to be a trilogy. When Stargate hit theaters in 1994, it wasn't just a one-and-done sci-fi flick, it was meant to be the beginning of something much bigger. Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were the creative duo behind the film and had a full trilogy in mind right from the start. Stargate would have been a narrative tool to explore different ancient Earth civilizations, suggesting that other gates existed and had been used by alien beings to influence human development across multiple cultures. After the Egyptian-inspired world of Abydos in the first film, the sequels were set to feature the ancient Mayans and even delve into Chinese mythology and lore. Each film would peel back another layer of history and reveal how alien technology had played a part in shaping humanity, all while continuing the story of Dr. Daniel Jackson and Colonel Jack O'Neill. Unfortunately, that vision never materialized. Despite the original Stargate being a financial success, MGM decided to go in a different direction. Their vision was more aligned with making a television series, since they realized the potential of many episode arcs. And so we got Stargate SG-1. While the series turned out to be a major success, it essentially made the original movie's storyline non-canonical. The Stargate itself is based on real conspiracy theories. Don't you just love it when your conspiracy theories take the form of a television show? While it doesn't happen very often, and the Stargate franchise is clearly science fiction, the core idea behind it actually has roots in some truly bizarre, real-world conspiracy theories. The concept of a Stargate being an ancient portal used by aliens to travel across galaxies isn't something Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin just pulled out of thin air. It was heavily influenced by fringe theories about ancient astronauts and hidden technology buried in human history. One of the most prominent of these theories suggests that ancient civilizations like the Egyptians, Sumerians, and Mayans had access to advanced alien tech. The pyramids, mostly the ones at Giza, were often claimed by conspiracy theorists to be more than just tombs. Some said they were energy generators. Some thought they were interstellar gateways. These ideas were floating around in the UFO and pseudoscience communities for decades before Stargate hit theaters. Maybe it's that oddly specific obsession the movie tapped into. That's what made it a hit. There was another wild theory that found its way into online forums. It claimed that the US military discovered a real, functioning Stargate in Iraq during the early 2000s. Now, if this was any part true, the invasion of Iraq wasn't about weapons of mass destruction alone, but rather a secret mission to secure alien technology hidden beneath ancient ruins. Okay, relax. The theory is pure science fiction, but it gained enough traction online to become a meme in its own right. Stargate SG-1 also had fun with this concept in later seasons, with subtle nods to government cover-ups, secret technology, ancient alien influence, and whatnot. The blending of real-world speculation with fictional storytelling is one of the reasons the Stargate franchise hit so hard, 'cause for some folks, it didn't feel that far from reality. Ra was originally meant to be a gray alien. In the early stages of writing Stargate, the character of Ra looked very different from what we eventually saw on screen. The first drafts of the script had Ra as a stereotypical gray alien. You know the type: tall, thin, pale skin, huge black eyes, and a big head. Basically, the classic image burned into pop culture by decades of UFO sightings and sci-fi stories. You see, the original concept leaned heavily into the traditional alien abduction mythology. Ra was was going to be this cold extraterrestrial, more in line with what people thought aliens might actually be like. But late into development, the creators made a major pivot and reimagined Ra as a humanoid being who had assumed the identity of an Egyptian god to control and enslave ancient humans. And let's just say that this was a pretty smart creative shift, because by blending Egyptian mythology with science fiction, Ra became a godlike figure with cultural weight, rather than just some rando alien overlord. His appearance was also redesigned to resemble the jackal-headed god Anubis, who had this ornate golden armor. This visual direction also gave the film a more unique identity because that's how it differentiated from other alien invasion stories of the time. This change deepens the lore and ties into the central theme of the movie, the idea that ancient deities were actually aliens who manipulated early civilizations. Ra's new look symbolized that fusion perfectly. He was an alien, yes, but cloaked in the familiar iconography of Earth's oldest legends. It set the tone for the entire Stargate universe that followed. The Stargate franchise has its own ancient language, and it's fully developed. Most sci-fi shows use a few made-up words or some vaguely alien-sounding gibberish to simulate a foreign language. But when it came to the language spoken by the Abydonians, the creators brought in a professional who was an expert in ancient Egyptian. Linguist Dr. Stuart Tyson Smith was hired to develop a functioning and consistent version of the language for the movie. Now that's how you make fake things feel real. Not only that, but it also adds a layer of accuracy to the whole lore. Smith reconstructed a version of Middle Egyptian that could be spoken and understood in full sentences. The actors were trained to speak their lines in this dialect phonetically, making it look all the more real. It was an immersive, detailed world building, and that kind of commitment to linguistic authenticity really paid off. Fans and scholars alike praised the effort, and the ancient language became one of the many things that set Stargate apart from other sci-fi franchises. Stuart Tyson Smith's contributions weren't just academic either. His work helped sell the idea that the people of Abydos were descendants of ancient Earth civilizations abducted by alien beings. In a genre where realism is often sacrificed for spectacle, Stargate stood out by putting in the hard work to make its universe feel lived in. Richard Dean Anderson's involvement changed the entire tone of SG-1. If you've only seen the original Stargate movie, you'd remember Colonel Jack O'Neill as a grim, no-nonsense military man who was burdened by grief and duty. He was a somber figure, played by Kurt Russell. But when Stargate SG-1 was launched as a TV series, everything changed, thanks to Richard Dean Anderson. He was already a household name from MacGyver, and took on the role with one big condition. He did not want to play a humorless action hero. He brought his own style of dry wit, sarcasm, and a kind of reluctant charm that completely reshaped the character into Jack O'Neill, now spelled with 2 L's. This small spelling change actually symbolized a much bigger shift in tone. Under Anderson's influence, O'Neill became a central reason fans connected so deeply with SG-1. He cracked jokes, rolled his eyes at technobabble, even played the straight man to the show's more serious or eccentric characters. In many ways, his humanity grounded the show, especially during its more intense moments. Richard played a key role behind the scenes as an executive producer for much of the series. He pushed for smarter storytelling and character-driven plots. Even the team dynamic felt more like a family than a standard military unit. A lighter tone is essential for shows like SG-1 to stand out in the already crowded category. The Cheyenne mountain complex in the show is a real U.S. facility. Fictional sets are usually the go-to thing in a sci-fi show. In fact, anything real is more difficult to make, but Stargate SG-1 went for something not only real, but also very secure. Stargate Command, or the SGC, is located inside the Cheyenne mountain complex. That is an actual military installation buried in the mountains of Colorado. In real life, it houses the North American Aerospace Defense Command and has been used for everything from early missile warning systems to command operations during emergencies. There's no doubt using Cheyenne Mountain added a layer of realism to the series, making the wild sci-fi elements like wormholes and ancient tech feel grounded in actual military infrastructure. But here's the crazy part. The show didn't just mention Cheyenne Mountain. They got legit cooperation from the U.S. Air Force to make it feel authentic. The Air Force provided a technical advisor for guidance to make sure scenes involving military military operations were spot on. Several real-life generals even made cameo appearances on SG-1. This positive portrayal of the Air Force was followed by a spike in recruitment during the show's run. They couldn't actually film inside the real Cheyenne Mountain, of course, but the production team recreated it meticulously on set, including the iconic blast doors, winding corridors, high-security checkpoints, etc. The attention to detail was so strong that many fans thought they were seeing the real thing. Well, they almost did. This collaboration between fiction and real-world defense truly made Stargate SG-1 the blurred line between reality and imagination. Stargate SG-1 was one of the longest-running sci-fi shows in history. When Stargate SG-1 premiered in 1997, nobody expected it to become one of the most enduring sci-fi series of all time. Spinning off from the 1994 film, it actually managed to surpass it in every way possible. Over the course of 10 seasons and 214 episodes, SG-1 held the record for the longest-running North American sci-fi TV series for years. It introduced iconic alien races like the Goa'uld, the Tok'ra, and the Replicators, and turned characters like Jack O'Neill, Teal'c, and Samantha Carter into household names for sci-fi fans. And SG-1 didn't just ride off into the sunset. It laid the foundation for a much larger universe. Launched in 2004, Stargate Atlantis ran for 5 seasons, taking fans to a new galaxy to continue the saga of ancient alien tech and interstellar threats. Then came Stargate Universe in 2009, a much darker, more survival-based take on the franchise. Few sci-fi series can say they spawned 3 live-action shows, multiple direct-to-DVD movies, web series like Stargate Origins, and a loyal fanbase that's still thriving decades later. Even conventions and fan productions keep the gates spinning. While Smallville eventually edged it out in terms of sheer episode count, SG-1 still holds the crown for most episodes in a straight-up North American sci-fi series. More importantly, it proved that you could build a rich, interconnected universe on the small screen, something other franchises like The Expanse and Battlestar Galactica would later follow. There's a secret backstory for the Goa'uld's snake form. Everyone knows Goa'uld. They're among the most recognizable and sinister alien races in Stargate lore, famously known for being the parasitic beings that invade a host's body and somehow manage to wrap around their spine in order to take control of their mind and body. But their appearance in the snake form was no accident. The creature design was inspired by real-life parasitic eels and worms that evoke a certain horror with their method of domination. But here's where things get really interesting. There's a deeper, lesser-known layer to their origin that never quite made it to screen. According to early writer room discussions, the Goa'uld might not have been the top dogs they claimed to be. Some early drafts suggested that the Goa'uld were actually bioengineered by another, now extinct alien race who may have designed the symbiotes either as weapons or servants. You know what that means, right? The Goa'uld's entire empire could have been built on stolen tech and some inherited arrogance. It opens up a chilling possibility. The so-called gods of the galaxy were just parasites riding on the coattails of a long-lost civilization. Crazy, isn't it? The show dropped tiny hints here and there. For instance, how advanced Goa'uld tech often seems too sophisticated for a race that mostly manipulates. But the writers never fully explored this potential origin story, which possibly left it open for future spin-offs. Don't we just love when a franchise layers its mythology like that? Like, even the villains weren't just evil for evil's sake, they had mysterious beginnings, long-forgotten secrets. It's one hell of a sci-fi twist to insinuate that Goa'uld, with all their grandeur, may have been nothing more than cosmic imposters who killed their creators and took the throne. Kurt Russell's son later appeared in a Stargate project. In one of the more interesting connections between Stargate's past and potential future, Wyatt Russell was considered for a role in the franchise. He was meant to initially portray a younger version of his father's character for a reboot. The notion of passing the torch from father to son sparked a lot of excitement among fans, for sure. I mean, Kurt Russell did leave a lasting influence on the role of Jack O'Neill. In fact, Kurt Russell's take on the character helped set the tone for the entire Stargate Stargate franchise. It would have been an opportunity to bridge the old and new, while keeping that unique Russell flavor alive. We know it sounds too intriguing, but it didn't really materialize. And while Wyatt Russell didn't get to reprise the O'Neill role, he still found his way into the Stargate universe in another fashion. In 2018, he appeared in a completely different Stargate-related project called The Twilight Zone Reboot, in an episode titled Not All Men. Though not a direct connection to the Stargate franchise, this was an interesting way for Wyatt to link back to the sci-fi genre. Even though the reboot never came to fruition, the idea of a family legacy within the franchise does leave some room for future involvement, either on screen or behind the scenes. Wyatt has a growing career, so who knows? Maybe a future for Stargate may still be on the horizon. A real Stargate reboot was in development, then disappeared. In 2014, a potential new chapter for the Stargate franchise seemed within reach when director Roland Emmerich and producer Dean Devlin announced a reboot of the Stargate film series. This reboot was to be a new trilogy, not related to SG-1 television continuity though. Basically, the plan was to reintroduce audiences to the concept of the Stargate, but with a fresh take and a more modern feel. MGM gave the project the green light, and the scripts were quickly drafted. This even led to a lot of excitement among longtime fans. Years later, in 2014, there were some serious talks of rebooting Stargate as a new trilogy that would follow the original version. Scripts were written and a reboot was officially greenlit. But when MGM was acquired by Amazon, the reboot quietly vanished during studio restructuring. So while we got a rich Stargate universe through TV, the original movie trilogy remains one of sci-fi's most fascinating what could have been stories. Marvelous verdict. And that wraps up our trivia train on Stargate. It has surely proved how rich and unexpected this universe really is. Whether it's the incredible language developed for the show or the impact that Richard Anderson had, Stargate will always be way more than just a series. It's something that has captured entire generations of people and left a serious mark on pop culture. So who knows what the future holds? Maybe another Stargate reboot is on the horizon. Which were your favorite moments from the series? Do tell us in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more such trivia trains. Until then, keep exploring the unknown, and thanks for watching.